She sat at the edge of the wedding hall where laughter and violin music filled the air like a language she no longer spoke. Her dress was borrowed, her smile forced, and her fingers twisted the edge of her napkin until it almost tore. Every other chair around her was filled with couples leaning close, whispering into each other's ears. She tried not to look, but loneliness has a way of forcing you to notice what you miss. Maya didn't belong here. The bride was her old college friend who insisted she come. "It'll be fun," she had said. "You deserve a night out." But now, sitting alone while waiters poured champagne she couldn't afford, Maya wished she'd stayed home with her son. He was 6, asleep with his grandmother, probably clutching his blanket like he always did when she wasn't around. She could almost hear his tiny voice saying, "Mommy, come back soon." At the center table, the CEO everyone whispered about made his first appearance. Adrian Stone. He wasn't the kind of man who blended into crowds. Even standing still, he carried the kind of confidence that made people move aside without knowing why. He spoke to the groom, laughed lightly, and then his gaze drifted across the hall until it landed on her. It wasn't a passing glance. It was focused, deliberate, curious. Maya looked away, embarrassed. She didn't need pity from men like him. She knew his type, rich, polished, surrounded by people who wanted something. He could never understand what it felt like to count every bill or to pretend you weren't invisible. Yet a few minutes later, she heard footsteps behind her chair. "Is this seat taken?" She looked up and nearly froze. It was him, the man every guest had been waiting to impress. No," she said quickly, pulling her purse aside. He sat down, calm and unhurried. "Good," he said, glancing at her empty plate. "You look like you needed company." Her heart raced. "I'm fine, thank you." He smiled. "You say that like someone who's been fine for a long time." She didn't answer. He wasn't wrong. The words stung because they were true. The music changed, couples moving to the dance floor. Maya tried to keep her eyes on her drink, but when the groom's aunt leaned over and whispered loudly, "Who invited her?" she felt her cheeks burn. Adrian heard it too. His eyes sharpened. Without warning, he stood, straightened his jacket, and placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Come with me," he said quietly. Before she could protest, he guided her toward the dance floor. Conversations paused. Eyes turned. The orchestra's rhythm slowed into something softer. "What are you doing?" she whispered. He leaned close enough for only her to hear. "Pretend I'm your husband tonight." Her breath caught. "What?" He looked down at her with a calm she couldn't decipher. "You deserve to be looked at the way they look at each other. So for tonight, let them see you differently." She should have pulled away, should have said no, but something about his voice, low, steady, sure, felt safe in a room that had made her feel small. He placed his hand at her waist, guiding her gently as the music wrapped around them. Every step felt foreign, yet her body remembered how to move. When she finally looked up, she saw people watching, but for once their eyes didn't carry pity. They carried envy. Adrian's smile was faint. "Better. I don't even know you," she whispered. "You don't need to," he said softly. "Just breathe. Let them think what they want." He spun her once, and for a moment she forgot every unpaid bill, every lonely night, every time she had to explain to her son why his father wasn't coming home. She wasn't a single mom sitting alone anymore. She was someone being seen, someone being chosen, if only for a song. When the music stopped, applause filled the room. Adrian didn't let go right away. He looked at her as if he'd found something he hadn't realized he'd been missing. "You smile like someone who forgot she could," he said quietly. She looked down, unable to hide the blush rising to her face. "You don't even know my name." He smiled. "Then tell me, so I can stop calling you mystery." She hesitated, torn between pride and the strange warmth in her chest. "Maya," he repeated it once, slowly, like a secret he meant to remember. "Maya." Then he leaned closer, voice softer than the music still playing. "I think this wedding just became interesting." And before she could ask what he meant, a flash of movement at the entrance caught her eye. A woman in a silver dress walked in, her gaze fixed on Adrian like she had a right to him. The crowd whispered again, louder this time, and Maya realized something had shifted. Whatever Adrian Stone was pretending tonight, it was about to collide with a truth he hadn't shared yet. The woman in the silver dress walked straight toward them, her heels clicking like tiny hammers on marble. The air shifted as whispers rippled through the guests. Maya froze, unsure if she should step back, but Adrian's hand stayed lightly on her waist, as if to say don't move. Adrian, the woman said, her smile sharp. I didn't expect to find you dancing. Her tone wasn't friendly. It was the kind of smile people use when they're fighting in public, but still pretending to be polite. Adrian's jaw tightened for the first time that night. Good evening, Evelyn. Maya felt his hand lower slightly, protective now, not performative. Evelyn's eyes flicked to her, scanning her from head to toe in one practiced motion. And who is this? Adrian didn't blink. My wife, he said evenly. Maya almost choked on air. Evelyn's eyebrow arched. Your wife? I didn't realize you'd married. Adrian's expression didn't change. I didn't realize it was still your business. The silence around them thickened. A few guests turned away, pretending not to eavesdrop. Maya's heart hammered so hard she could hear it. She whispered, Adrian, but he gave a tiny shake of his head, his thumb pressing gently against her hand in reassurance. Evelyn let out a soft laugh that didn't reach her eyes. Well, congratulations then, she said, voice laced with sugar and venom. Though I have to admit, this is a surprise. You move quickly. Adrian tilted his head slightly. When you find something real, you don't wait. The words hit Maya like a physical touch. She wasn't sure if he meant them for Evelyn or for her, but for a second, she forgot to breathe. Evelyn's smile cracked just slightly before she turned and walked away, her perfume lingering like a warning. As soon as she was gone, Maya stepped back. What was that? Why did you say that? Adrian's calm returned like a mask sliding back into place. Because she doesn't deserve the satisfaction of thinking she still matters. You lied, Maya said quietly. He met her gaze. Yes, and I'm sorry, but I promise it wasn't about you. I didn't want her to make you feel small. Maya stared at him, trying to understand the man who had just stood in front of a crowd and called her his wife like it was the easiest truth in the world. Who is she? His voice dropped low. Someone who used to think she could own people. Someone I let too close once. The honesty in his tone silenced her questions. Before she could say anything else, the bride appeared, her face glowing. Maya, you were amazing out there. And Adrian, you finally danced. She laughed, unaware of the tension that had just passed. Everyone's talking about how beautiful you two looked together. Maya tried to smile, but the word together felt heavy. Adrian only nodded politely, but when the bride moved on, he turned to Maya again. I'm sorry if that put you in a strange spot. She folded her arms, half nervous, half curious. You're not what I expected. He smiled faintly. Neither are you. For the next hour, they sat together while conversations buzzed around them. Adrian didn't talk much, but when he did, his words carried weight. He asked about her son, about her work at the design shop, about how she managed everything alone. She answered cautiously at first, then more openly, drawn by his quiet attention. He didn't interrupt, didn't offer pity, just listened. When dessert was served, he leaned closer and said, I wasn't lying when I said you deserve to be seen. You just needed someone to remind you. She looked at him, confused. Why me? You could have danced with anyone here. He smiled gently. Because everyone here was looking at me. You were the only one looking at the floor. Her chest tightened. No one had ever noticed that before. Later, when the night ended and guests started leaving, Maya gathered her things, ready to disappear the way she always did. But as she stepped outside into the cool night air, Adrian followed. I'll walk you to your car, he said. It's fine, she replied, but he didn't move. He slipped his jacket off and draped it over her shoulders without asking. You shouldn't have to walk alone, he said simply. The parking lot was quiet, filled with the faint hum of crickets. She stopped beside her old car and turned to face him. Thank you. For tonight. He nodded once, hands in his pockets. You made it easier to be human again. She tilted her head. What does that mean? He gave a small smile. I forgot what it felt like to do something without an agenda. Before she could answer, a black car pulled up behind him. A driver stepped out and opened the door. Adrian looked back at her one last time. Good night, Maya. She watched him leave, his words lingering in the air like the faint aftertaste of a dream. When she sat in her car, her hands trembled against the steering wheel. She wasn't sure if she'd ever see him again, but part of her didn't want the night to end. She didn't know that as she drove away, Adrian's driver glanced at him through the mirror and asked, Sir, should I delete the photo? Adrian stared at the screen showing a picture of him and Maya dancing, taken by someone inside the wedding. The caption was already spreading online. CEO Adrian Stone spotted with mystery wife. He didn't answer right away. Then, without taking his eyes off the photo, he said, "No, let them wonder." Maya's phone buzzed the next morning before she'd even finished packing her son's lunch. She didn't recognize the number, but something in her gut told her to answer. "Hello. Good morning, Maya." The voice was calm, familiar. It made her heart skip. "Adrian, I owe you breakfast," he said. "For last night." She laughed softly. "You don't owe me anything. You already gave me the best dance of my life. Then let me give you the best coffee." She hesitated. Her mother would be watching Ethan for the morning, but still, this was the kind of thing she didn't do anymore. He seemed to sense her pause. "It's just coffee," he said gently. "Not a contract." That line made her smile. "All right, one coffee." He texted her the address to a small cafe near the park, quiet, unpretentious. When she walked in, he was already there. No bodyguards, no suit, just a plain gray sweater and the same calm she remembered. He stood when he saw her, that slight smile softening his face. "You came. I said I would." They ordered simple things, black coffee for him, cappuccino for her, and shared pancakes because the smell was too good to resist. It felt normal, almost too normal. But normal was something Maya hadn't had in a long time. "I saw the photo," she said finally. "The one from the wedding. It's everywhere." He stirred his coffee without looking surprised. "Let them talk. You don't care?" "I care about what's true. The rest fades." Maya leaned back. "You're used to rumors, huh?" He nodded. "Comes with the job. But this time, it's different. For once, I don't mind the story they're telling." Her cheeks warmed. "Because it makes you look mysterious?" "Because it makes you look seen." She laughed quietly, not sure how to answer. He didn't flirt the way other men did. He said things that landed somewhere deeper. Halfway through coffee, her phone rang again. Her mother's number. She excused herself, stepped outside, and answered. "Mom? Everything okay?" "Ethan's fine," her mother said quickly, but a man came by. He said he's from some company called Stone Holdings. "He left a note for you." Maya frowned. "What kind of note?" "A letter. Sealed. Looked official." He said it was about a design job. Her pulse quickened. When she returned to the table, Adrian was looking at her with that calm, unreadable gaze. "Something wrong." "My mom said someone from Stone Holdings came by with a letter for me." He set his cup down. "That's one of my companies." She blinked. "Wait, what?" He hesitated for a moment before speaking. "You said last night you were looking for more design work. We're opening a new community initiative. I wanted you to lead it." She stared at him, unsure if she'd heard right. "You're offering me a job?" "I'm offering you a chance to use your talent. No favors. I saw your portfolio before I met you." Her head spun. "You saw my portfolio?" He smiled faintly. "Your friend Sarah sent it to our HR department last month. It landed on my desk." She looked down, processing everything at once. The dance, the lie, the photograph, and now this. "So what is this, Adrian? Some kind of savior act?" His tone softened, but his eyes stayed steady. "No. This is me doing what I should have done last night. Helping without pretending." Maya exhaled slowly. "You don't even know me." "Then let me," he said simply. Before she could reply, a black SUV stopped outside the cafe. The same driver from the wedding stepped out, holding a phone. "Sir, we have a situation." Adrian's calm broke for the first time. "What kind of situation?" The driver leaned closer, whispering something that made Adrian's expression darken. He stood quickly and turned to Maya. "I have to go." She frowned. "What's going on?" He hesitated, then met her eyes. "Remember what I said about people who think they can own others? One of them just made a mistake." "Adrian." He was already at the door, his voice low but steady. "I'll call you tonight. Keep the letter. And whatever you do, don't open it until I tell you." Before she could ask why, he was gone. The cafe door swung shut behind him, leaving her alone with 2 untouched cups of coffee, a folded letter in her purse, and a growing feeling that she had just stepped into something far bigger than she understood. Maya sat in her car for almost 10 minutes, staring at the envelope resting on the passenger seat. The cream paper looked ordinary, but Adrian's words kept circling in her head. "Don't open it until I tell you." She didn't understand why, but her instincts told her this wasn't about a simple job. Something was hidden inside that paper, something that could change how she saw him, or maybe how the world saw her. When she got home, her mother was waiting with Ethan on her lap, watching cartoons. "That man was polite," her mother said, "but strange." He asked a few questions about you before leaving the letter. Said he was an associate of Mr. Stone. Maya forced a smile. He's just someone from work. Her mother raised an eyebrow. Work doesn't send people in suits with drivers. Maya didn't answer. She took the envelope to her room and set it on the dresser, away from temptation. But curiosity kept gnawing at her. What could possibly be inside that required secrecy? By evening, her phone rang again. Unknown number. She answered quickly, expecting Adrian's voice, but it wasn't him. Ms. Carter, this is Detective Hale from the NYPD. We're conducting an inquiry into Mr. Adrian Stone. We'd like to ask you a few questions. Her breath caught. Adrian? What kind of questions? The detective's tone was measured. It's about a corporate investigation. He may have left something with you, a document or package. Please don't handle it until we meet. Her eyes darted to the letter on the dresser. What's this about? I can't discuss details on the phone. We'll send an officer over within the hour. The call ended before she could reply. Maya's stomach knotted. She called Adrian immediately, but it went to voicemail. Adrian, the police just called. They said they're investigating you. They mentioned the envelope. Please call me back. Outside, thunder rolled. The sky dimmed, clouds pressing low as if the whole city held its breath. At exactly 7 p.m., headlights flashed outside her window. She opened the door expecting an officer, but instead found Adrian standing there, rain glistening on his hair. You shouldn't be here, she said. The police. I know. He interrupted softly, stepping inside. You got the call? Yes. They said you're under investigation. What's happening, Adrian? He ran a hand through his hair, eyes darker than before. Someone inside my company leaked financial documents. They're framing me for it. That letter they gave you isn't about a job. It's proof of who's really behind it. Maya's hands trembled. Then why didn't you just give it to the police yourself? Because I don't know who's bought them. She stared at him, torn between fear and trust. You used me. He shook his head. No, I trusted you. There's a difference. Her voice broke. You told me to pretend you were my husband, and now you're bringing me into something I don't even understand. Adrian stepped closer, his voice low but steady. Maya, I never planned this. But the night I saw you sitting alone, something changed. I didn't want you to be part of my world, but I needed someone honest, someone who wouldn't sell me out. Her eyes glistened. You don't know me well enough to say that. He held her gaze. I know you're brave enough to stand in a room full of people who made you feel invisible. That's more than I can say for half the board members in my company. Before she could answer, there was a sharp knock at the door. 3 precise taps. Adrian's posture stiffened. He whispered, That's not the police. Maya's heart raced. How do you know? Because they wouldn't knock. Another knock. Louder this time. Adrian moved to the window and peeked through the curtain. 2 men stood near a black car, both in dark coats, their faces unreadable. He turned back to her. We need to leave. Now. Leave? Where? He took her hand, firm but gentle. Somewhere safe. I'll explain on the way. Maya hesitated only a second before nodding. She grabbed the envelope, tucking it under her jacket. Adrian led her through the back door, his hand never letting go of hers as they slipped into the narrow alley behind her building. The rain was heavier now, drumming against the pavement, hiding their footsteps. When they reached his car, she climbed in, heart pounding. Where are we going? He started the engine, eyes fixed on the road ahead. To a place where no one can reach us until I clear my name. Maya looked down at the envelope resting in her lap, its seal still unbroken. And if you can't. He glanced at her, the first hint of fear flickering in his eyes. Then that letter will decide what happens next, to both of us.